project is part of an experiment that's been going on for a couple years where I turn over and try to engage their participation in developing the concept of each project. We need to engage students more in the process of developing their idea. And I do this starting in third grade. Below third grade, we're working on skills. We're learning how to do things. Then third grade, I'd like them to really take these collaborative ideas from their tables and try to come to a project idea where everybody's really engaged, excited about it, and they own the lesson. It's not a lesson designed by Mrs. Sloan. All I've done is serve as a guide. I've guided them towards a certain artist or a certain style of art or media that I want them to learn about, but then let them tell me where they want to go with it. I shared a video with these fourth graders of Nick Cave's sound suits, and wow, it just took off from there. These kids loved it. One of the students said, "This is my new favorite artist, Mrs. Sloan, because he's so fun to watch and he's alive." So many of the artists I teach them about are dead guys. So they decided that we should do something that's inspired by Nick Cave. So I set up the project like I have in the past. They're very familiar with this. There are 4 tables in my art room, and each table has about 5 students. The students are to collaborate with each other at each separate table. They have to share ideas, they write down notes, they do sketches, and they come together and compromise with a project idea. And then they're given 5 minutes to present their idea to the entire class. Why do I have you do these presentations? Raise your hand. Isabel?
Because you think we come up with creative ideas?
That's right. Then we talk about the 4 presentations and try to come together as what that one project idea is going to be that we adopt.
We had some old Hot Wheels cars that didn't have any toys, like you said. You had like some drills. You could get a pointy tip and just drill a hole through like the back of it so it'll still be able to quickly climb.
Or if you can work a piece of thread or copper wire around the axle of the wheels. Are these giving you ideas?
They turn nice. Well, Nick Cave made sound suits to cover his face, but these are covering your hair. What if you exactly? Oh no, I'm having a bad hair day. I need to put this on. What if you wear a hat?
We are now finished with the 4th graders' Nick Cave sound suit project. This project took a large part of time, much more than I originally planned. It took most of second quarter, which was 9 weeks long. But the students kept begging for more time as they worked with materials and gained skills. When a child, for instance, learned how to work with wire and they wanted to keep working with wire, I found it necessary to allow them to have that time.
Since I like monsters and things like that, I came up with the sound dragons because I like dragons, and since you have to have sounds, so I just put some bells here, here, and here. So you could use it as an instrument, or you could just play along. I think this was a fun project to do, and also you could, well, Nick Cave inspired me with his sound suits. So I just made a little toy that you could play an instrument with just sounds.
He did a wire armature, he worked with sewing, he attached the wings with his sewing, he did a blind stitch. I mean, when I look at all the little details that he worked in and the new skills that he developed, this was quite successful. And I know the student is very, very proud of his work. So that to me is a personal connection.
A lot of my friends started telling me that they wanted one of these to help them make one of these, so I just started helping people with their projects.
This student didn't know how to work with wire, and he ended up making a little armature, and then we had all these jewels and feathers and beads. If they made it freestanding, they got extra credit, and voila. It worked beautifully. This one is actually a Nick Cave sound suit. This girl patiently sewed and then glued a ring, it looks like, and made this entire suit. And then she talked her dad into making this stand, which turned out quite nice for her project. And again, onomatopoeia, if they use onomatopoeia in their titles, she says Nick Cave's Bing Bang sculpture. It's fabulous. This little girl, I have to say, had the problem of making it freestanding. This is a sound skirt that she actually beaded each strand for the skirt. But she wanted it to make sound, so she wanted it to be suspended so that you could push on it. This person started out making an armature for a hat, but he didn't use the hat at all, because as he gained more and more skills with the wire, and he made the tripod stand so it's very sturdy, he decided to just start adding onomatopoeia sound items to it.
And it's kind of like a story of me, because this watch, it flips out and has the time I was born. So I decided to express myself and add a bit of touch of sound to it.
He calls it The Time I Became Me, Tick, 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 also known as Story of Me in Sound, Jingle, Jingle. I thought that was just beautifully personalized.
When I first started the project, I was going to do just a normal gloves that made sound, but I chose to make these 2 hands and then these 3 faces. So I named it the 3-headed monster.
What is the biggest thing you learned on this project?
Like to have fun doing it and put some of yourself into your art.
This project also surprised and amazed me with how well the students took to understanding what an artist works with in terms of a big idea. They really tried to figure out what Nick Cave was all about, and then they took it to the next level. I think higher level thinking skills were involved in trying to find it in a personal connect way. And boy, did these students come through for me on that, for themselves actually. They learned how to work with new materials, but at the same time, they let it change. Instead of sticking with that initial drawing or sketch that we started with, they let it change as they gained their skills with their wire, with their sewing. And the materials they chose, the colors they chose, reflected their personalities. I mean, when I look at a lot of these projects, I know the student who made this project, that is their personality. It came through. And so in that regard, I think this project was more successful than just giving them an assignment to understand one artist. They, of course, understand who Nick Cave is, but now they understand how to take that artist's big idea and even to work with it and make it become your own big idea. That's almost a life skill, and that's what art appreciation is all about. These students are all ready now to set up and learn about a new artist and try to figure out what their big idea is and appreciate art through working with something similar in their materials and change it into their own idea again. So I couldn't be happier with the end result.